It's time to break down some football.
We got to get our mind right. Touchdown, wins.
From the perspective of guys who played in the NFL.
Touchdown!
And a guy who had one really great sack in high school.
Oh, you're so weak. You're a waste of my time.
Greg Camarillo and Marcus McNeil are the pros, and Skraby is the Joe.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Two Pros and a Joe starts right now.
Welcome into Two Pros and a Joe, but today it's going to sound a little bit different because it's no pros and two Joes. I'm Matt Skraby. I'm here with our esteemed producer, Mr. Thomas Andrews. Thomas, how are you doing today, buddy? Are you ready to talk some football?
Yeah, I know there's big shoes to fill, not only because Marcus is like twice our size and Greg's super athletic, but tough shoes are going to be filled by you and I today.
Yeah, that's a great point. Greg could easily beat us all in a foot race unless you put him up against Marcus because, you know, the offensive lineman is probably the most athletic position on the field, according to me and Marcus. And I think, Thomas, are you with that too? I think you're an offensive lineman guy.
Yeah, 100%. Anytime you see anybody over 6'4", 6'5", 300 pounds being able to have a vertical of 30+ and running under 5-second 40s,
that is an athlete.
That's scary.
That is an athlete. Sorry, Greg, you're no longer athletic. Get out of here with your skill. No, I'm just kidding. We're only joking about that because on episode 16, Greg Camarillo took umbrage with what Marcus said about him being offensive lineman being the most athletic players on the field.
I'll try and have to meme Greg's face when you guys said that. It was
good?
Great. Yeah,
well, okay.
It was just like a. I don't know. It's hard without video.
Yeah, let's get a GIF of that. That would be amazing. That would be amazing. The reason that Thomas knows that is because when you're on our social media at 2 Pros and a Joe, at number 2 Pros and a Joe, any of those video clips that you see are done by Thomas. So we wanted to give him a little thanks for that. It's awesome that he's able to help us with that, and he's helping us with producing the show. He is a big football guy. I worked with Thomas at 97.3 The Fan, still currently our coworkers. We don't work on the same show, but Thomas is still in the building. So I'm very excited to get Thomas's voice on this today. And over the offseason, we're going to try to do as many 2 Pros and a Joe with the regular cast of characters, but it's just not going to work every other week. So what Thomas and I are going to do is try to keep you up on all the different day-to-day news in the NFL when we can't get the 2 Pros and 1 Joe going.
We'll give you the NFL news for dummies, essentially.
Yeah. No, Thomas is that's why I have Thomas here, or that's why we have Thomas, because Thomas is a football geek. He's a football nerd. He was just mentioning something to me before the podcast that I did not care about one bit, and he was like geeking out about it. So you guys are going to love Thomas. And chances are, if you're listening to this and you listen to the radio show on 97.3 The Fan, you know who Thomas is. He's more commonly referred to as Odd Thomas. And you can find him on Twitter at OddThomas71. You can find me at Matt Skraby. You can find Greg Camarillo at Catch Camarillo. You can find Marcus McNeil at Marcus McNeil73. So let's get started with some of the news that we wanted to talk about. And you're a Patriots fan, so I wanted to get your thoughts on what's going on in New England, mainly because without Tom Brady, the New England Patriots are going to be like every other franchise in football who is searching for a quarterback. And you guys, your fan group, and the franchise itself is starting to realize it's not that easy to play football without a quarterback that you can rely on. But Cam Newton, he'll be coming back for his second year with the Patriots over the weekend. There was some news broke that he signed a 1-year, $14 million deal. Most of it is incentive-based, but I think around $7 million of it is guaranteed. So I like Cam and how he bets on himself. Last year he signed a deal, I think 1 year, $1 million
with some built-in incentives, but for a baseline baseline
1 year,
salary
$1 million,
of $1 million.
Which is unheard of for guys of his caliber because all those guys are making $20-something million a year. And I gotta hand it to Cam. I like that move. You're betting on yourself. You're also helping out the team. So, what are your thoughts on this and Cam Newton re-signing with just another 1-year deal? I think the reason it's a 1-year deal is because free agency's down and might be down this year because of the pandemic. But what are your thoughts?
I mean, if anything, you're at least bringing more continuity back for a second season with a guy that was there. Hopefully, with a real training camp, off-season programs. Maybe bring in some actual offensive weapons to help this year. I mean, they've cleared up a lot of cap space by letting some players go. They making some trades today. They just traded Marcus Cannon, who was a 3-time Super Bowl champ with them, from a former offensive tackle for them, because they just traded for Trent Brown earlier this week from the the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah,
Las
he used
Vegas
to play.
Raiders.
Yeah, he used to play for. Okay, I sit here and I talk up Thomas all this time, and then he can't even tell where the Raiders play. He thinks he's played for the 49ers. No, I think Trent Brown played for the 49ers back in the day, and then was with the Patriots, and then went to the Las Vegas Raiders
for a big sum of money, and then put on Twitter as soon as he was just traded back to the Patriots, it's not worth the money if you're not happy.
You want to hire me as your therapist? I could have told you that. I mean, it's true. It's not about the money. Like, I worked a job and I made decent money, not great money, not millions of dollars or anything like that, but I made, enough to live off of in San Diego, and I hated my job, and it just weighed on me every single day. So I took a job. Apparently I work for free basically now. So it's okay. I mean, I love working for free. It's great. Thank you, Entercom. Keep me employed. All right, Thomas, do you, like, with the Cam Newton thing, what's their plan? Because I think that they're going to draft someone here in this draft, and they're going to try to develop them. The problem is that the draft is quarterback heavy, but it's front quarterback heavy, and I don't know where they pick. I should have looked that up before we started here, but I don't know that they're going to be able to get one of those top guys in the draft unless they trade up.
There's some still speculation out there that
this is great. Spill. Okay, I'm just kidding, Thomas.
That they could still trade for someone out there. Like, Jimmy G's still been a target for them because...
Okay, will you stop?
Hey, the reports are out there that the Niners aren't completely happy with Jimmy G, and if there's a trade willing to be taken, I think the Patriots could acquire him. They'd love to have him back. But with Cam Newton, like I was telling you, it's just continuity back again, and it's going to have some type of stabilization there at quarterback. They don't need another guy coming in trying to learn the system. Hopefully... Potentially you bring back Julian Edelman if he's healthy to come back and play, but they've got a lot of issues because they've got a ton of free agents on the offensive line with Joe Thuney, David Andrews, like I just said, James White, Rex Burkhead, and Damiere Byrd, who was their number one wide receiver last year. And not to mention a former first-round pick, N'Keal Harry, is being shopped around because the guy has not been able to translate.
He hasn't been healthy.
He hasn't been able to translate his game to the pro level.
Well, has he played a lot of games? I don't feel like he's played a lot of games.
I believe he almost started every game last season.
Really? Okay. Well, that makes me the idiot because I felt like he was hurt a lot last year. But the Patriots had the 15th pick in the draft this year. So we'll see if they trade him up or anything. And right now they're slated in mock draft to take a linebacker, Azeez Ojulari. How do you like him?
I think he's got great upside, hell of a player.
Okay, good.
Sideline to sideline speed.
Yeah, okay. I know that Bill Belichick, he knows what he's doing, but it will be interesting to see what happens with the Patriots. They got to do something because Cam Newton can't just keep signing one-year deals. And after last year, I mean, he was good. He was good enough, and the Patriots, they were destined to be bad last year. It was just going to happen with all the pandemic guys sitting out and all that stuff.
And all reports, too, all 6 of those guys that opted out last year are all coming back slated to play, especially the number one was Donta Hightower and then Patrick Chung was your 2 defensive leaders. So
Patrick Chung probably out doing something else. That's
you know what's so funny is, do you remember him getting busted
for cocaine, I believe.
And what happened?
I think
nothing.
The court system took care of it.
Essentially, but I just remember I remember you came in one day and you're like, this guy is in so much trouble. Can you believe it? Look at this guy. And what happened?
Basically, anytime any Patriots news happens that's negative, Thomas is the first person that I contact about because I have to rub it in his face. I just do. And then he shows all the Super Bowl rings that the Patriots have, and then I cry a little bit inside. Let's talk about some of the other quarterbacks that are moving around. Well, real quick, former Patriots quarterback Tom Brady signed another extension. I don't think it's that big of a deal because they're just going to keep deferring money.
Yeah.
And it's just going to make room in the cap. I think he's like, there's a way around it. If you give a signing bonus, it doesn't count against the cap, but it does cost you cash. And the Bucs aren't really worried about cash after winning a Super Bowl, I don't think.
I believe they're basically these next few seasons are still all the chips are in on the table, and they're really trying to essentially run it back as best they can. They just re-signed Levante David to a 2-year deal. But again, a ton of guaranteed money. They tagged Chris Godwin, and all reports are they're trying to get a deal done with him, maybe even just like a 3-year deal.
I didn't hear that. Okay.
I'm sure AB and Gronk want to come back at some point too.
We'll get to AB, yeah.
But yeah,
but Gronk, was he a 1-year deal or was he a 2-year deal? He was a 1-year deal. Okay. So he'll be coming back. I mean, you win a Super Bowl, Tom Brady's going to be like, Gronk, come on, buddy. You're coming back. Yeah. So that is interesting, but I really just think it's more so of number one, it's trying to get Tom to play to 45 for real. Like, people when he was like 40 and he said he was playing to 45, everybody was like, okay, Tom, real funny. And then every year it gets closer to 45, it keeps becoming reality.
You've known me for a while, and one thing me and you can really agree on is sometimes is like we love pettiness when it comes to things in sports.
Definitely.
And how great was it that the Patriots announced the signing of Cam Newton to a 1 year, and it looked like $13 million, but only the base of 5 to 6. And then I would say not even an hour or two later, Tom Brady signs another 1 year extension for essentially like $25 million or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was just I just looked like another big middle finger to the Patriots in a way from Tom Brady holding up his now 7 Super Bowl rings.
I didn't even put that together, to be honest. I didn't. That's interesting. But why would Tom Brady, why is he so mad at the Patriots?
I don't think he's mad at them. I just think it's like, again, it's just petty. It's just, you didn't think I could still do it, and look what's happening. I just think that's been his mantra since he came to the league.
Well,
it's
he
always
needs
been
something.
Him again. Exactly.
He
always
something.
needs something to drive him. It's like that Michael Jordan thing where you have to sometimes even make up false.
Which is actually the definition of a psychopath. You have to make up things to hate someone. Like, you can't. Never mind. But I get it. And Tom Brady does need stuff to keep driving him. And if hating the Patriots is the way to do it, and then go ahead, Tom. Go ahead.
I believe they play each other this coming up season 2.
The Patriots and the
Bucks.
Ooh. Oh. Is that going to be like the opening game of the year? It's got to be, right?
I don't think it'll be that Thursday night game. But
Jarrett
I'm sure
Stidham versus Tom Brady.
It'll be Cam now.
Oh, yeah, we just talked about that like 5 minutes ago. Sorry about that, guys. It's Sunday. I'm not in the sports talk mindset today, but that's what we're going to talk about. That's all what I'm trying to say is here. That's all the Patriots are going to talk about today until a little bit later with Antonio Brown. But let's go through some of the other quarterbacks that have moved around. We talked about it weeks ago with JT O'Sullivan, former quarterback of the NFL. But Matt Stafford went to the Rams and Jared Goff went to the Lions. I feel bad for Jared Goff because he is the odd man out of Sean McVay's failures, in my opinion.
Well, and you got to look at, he got sent to a place where there's tremendous upside because they got some young pieces around, but the team not tagging Kenny Golladay, so you're letting your number one offensive weapon leave essentially in free agency, which, I mean, there's a chance he still could come back if they were to sign him, but the overall history of the Lions franchise, they don't tend to do that kind of thing. And they're going to lose some top offensive linemen, too, for that offensive line as well. So, I mean, Jared Goff's going to have a uphill battle in front of him, but he's got 2 first-round picks that hopefully they can get him something, and maybe they'll spend some money in free agency. The Stafford to the Rams, you know, we've talked about my take on Stafford.
You cannot. Okay, let's get into this for a second because you cannot stand Matthew Stafford. I can't stand how he says his first name is Matthew, and that's about it. I think he's a good quarterback. He has all the arm slots. The turkey hole is what I think John Gruden called it on Monday Night Football one time.
Yeah, I think I've seen him throw submarine too.
So he could honestly throw like he was doing it before Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick Mahomes even said that. You guys should pay attention to Matthew Stafford because he's been doing it for a lot longer than I have. Please, media, pay attention to Matthew Stafford. Just so Thomas hates it so much. No. Like why do you think he's a bad quarterback? I think he was a bad quarterback by circumstance.
Circumstance maybe, but at the same time if you lead the league over the last few years in game-winning drives and game-ending interceptions, I mean, yeah, you can't say he wasn't trying, but I just don't see the hype. You know, he does throw a lot of short, easy completions, and a lot of the stuff is a lot of padded stats at the end of games. You even look at some of the times where he's had the chance to perform in some of the big games and he has underperformed. And yes, you could say it's been an overall team effort, but the guy takes a lot of sacks. And I think the Rams, you know, they're going to have their own issues. You know, everyone thinks that you can just slot this guy in, but they've lost a lot of pieces on the coaching staff wise, and I think Brandon Staley leaving them on their defense. How do you go from the number 1 ranked defense? I mean, yes, offenses can retain year to year if you keep the core pieces around, but I think defenses is the hardest thing to keep together to play at a top notch each year.
Yeah, it is, and I just think I don't know. I don't buy all of the Rams to the Super Bowl talk. I just don't buy it. I don't think that they're ready. I don't think Sean McVay, yeah, he got them there, and they've been good. They've been in the playoffs. But what happened when things got bad? He threw his quarterback under the bus that he praised for years, and he sent him away. I mean, and they did it really rudely, by the way. The GM, is it Les Snead, not Les Miles. He's in a whole bunch of different trouble. Les Snead, though, was like, he's our quarterback for now. If I'm Jared Goff and I'm sitting at home and I hear this, I'm like, what? I thought I was your quarterback.
You just paid me, too.
You just paid me a couple years ago. So it's very strange. The franchise had to put themselves behind Sean McVay one last time. But I think these are strong thoughts. And my former high school teammate, Kevin O'Connell, is the offensive coordinator of the Rams. And I'm not saying anything about him, but I am saying that that Sean McVay is probably the worst in-game adjuster in the NFL. I mean, that's a strong statement to say. Maybe not in the NFL, but with good teams, he's not a good adjuster.
Well, then you got to think, what is Kevin O'Connell, the OC? Is he actually the one calling these plays, too, or is he just there as the extra ear and the extra set of eyes for McVay, who, McVay can remember every single play call he's done for the last 4 years.
Which I don't buy, but...
and every down and distance and single, So you got to think, too, if this Matt Stafford thing doesn't work out in the next... Okay, maybe not even base it off this season alone. Let's say they don't do it on a deep playoff run in the next 2 years. Is McVay on the hot seat officially? And Les Snead?
Yes, because I don't like the name Snead. Look at all the draft
capital they've given up. And I know people say, oh, they don't need first-round picks. Look how well they've done over the few years. Yeah, you can get lucky and hit on a few guys in the late rounds, but you have to do that consistently. And if they can, in these upcoming drafts, not having a first-round pick till 2024, which is...
That's crazy.
Insane.
That is insane. We didn't even talk about the part where the craziest part is that the Rams basically mortgaged their future to get Matthew Stafford. It's insane. They gave up so many draft picks. They gave up Jared Goff. I don't understand it one bit. And one thing that Jared Goff is probably going to have to do without too is Marvin Jones Jr. is a free agent as well, the wide receiver for the Lions, and I think he probably had the best season as a receiver for Lions because Kenny Golladay was hurt most of the time, and Kenny Golladay is he's not a lock to come back either. And Jared Goff is now playing for the kneecap cannibal, Dan Campbell. So I feel so bad for Jared Goff. I really do, because I don't think Jared Goff deserved to be shipped to Detroit.
No, and you got to think, too, you went from one of the top tier teams in a division that everybody's competitive now to like the cellar dweller of a division.
And you're playing Aaron Rodgers at least twice a year coming up.
For at least another 2-3 years, potentially.
Yeah, and you're playing, you're playing the Vikings, you're playing the Bears. What if the Bears get Russell Wilson? We're going to talk about him in a second. It's going to be crazy. So that is one thing I love about this offseason is that there's so many different quarterbacks going everywhere, and I love the change, and I can't wait to see what happens. Patrick Mahomes, the greatest quarterback to ever walk this earth, and his daughter that he just gave, or his fiance just gave birth to, she's already been offered scholarships. So. Oh, really? Yes.
When's she signing her?
I don't know.
Lifetime deal.
I don't know.
With Hunt's ketchup.
She definitely needs to, because babies like ketchup too. There's gonna be some cute baby commercial of them like eating chicken nuggets together. I have to think that. I don't know. If you Hunts, hit me up, okay? But Patrick Mahomes, we saw in the Super Bowl how bad it was for him when he didn't have an offensive line, because Eric Fisher, first overall pick, I believe 8 years ago, he was out of the Super Bowl with a torn Achilles, and then you had Mitchell Schwartz, who was out of the Super Bowl as well. So both tackles, his bookends, are gone. They let Eric Fisher go, and they let Mitchell Schwartz go, and not even that, they're going to let probably their center go into free agency. They don't want to pay him. And I'm left thinking, what the heck am I missing? Like, do the Chiefs have some sort of secret plan? Because Patrick Mahomes looked terrible behind that offensive line in the Super Bowl.
And I think a guy like Patrick Mahomes...
Sorry, terrible. Before people jump down my throat, terrible as in he didn't look like Patrick Mahomes.
Well, and everyone will still say, if it wasn't for 2 drops in the end zone, that game would have looked way different.
True, but you can say that about a lot of things.
Well, when you run for 500 yards sideways, backwards, and...
Yeah, and that's because he didn't have 2 tackles. I mean, he had a Swiss cheese of a line, and I think Marcus McNeil said that same thing in our Super Bowl recap episode.
A couple turnstiles at the tackles.
Yeah, turnstiles. We could keep going all day on this, but I don't know. What do you think the Chiefs are thinking?
I think come free agency and the start of the new league year coming up, I still think we're going to see a lot of more veteran guys get cut. So maybe we see them go in a different route and maybe do a couple one-year deals. I think what happened too with Schwartz is that he had signed a big deal a couple years ago, and I think maybe just to cut him to save some cap space, and maybe they'll have to work him out and see what his health is going to look like. Because I mean, back surgery, that's tough to come back from. You know, this guy played almost 9,000 consecutive snaps. It's pretty good for a guy coming over from the Browns, and good free agency for them a few years ago. But you know, you may see him come back on a smaller deal. Same with, you know, we see other guys come back. You know, there is going to be talent out there. I mean, you talked about Trent Williams at the top of the show about wanting to come back to the Niners. I mean,
I think that was off the air, but Trent Williams, he needs to come back to the Niners because tackles are so important in the NFL.
But you don't think maybe a guy like him in his career, like, man, I could go play with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you could probably get a guy like...
Why you got to put that in my head? Because the reason that you said something good. You said something good because that could definitely be a possibility.
And, you know, maybe he wants to try and get a ring at this late part in his career. He's made a lot of money. Maybe he takes a better deal to go play for a winner, you know?
I wouldn't blame him either. I wouldn't blame him. The Chiefs are probably closer to the Super Bowl than the Niners are. I mean, we'll see. We'll see.
So that's my mindset. I mean, I don't want to ever count Andy Reid out. He's been we've seen him since coming to Kansas City has you could say Bill Belichick has still won because he's got the more rings and everything, but I think Andy Reid has actually built some better teams with castaways and less pieces. So I wouldn't count him out when it comes to that. But again, when we talk about continuity, I think those 2 guys, if they don't bring one of the 2 back, it's going to be a huge loss when it comes to just
huge loss,
personality-wise around that team.
Yeah, huge loss, very big loss, and so that's a situation we need to keep an eye on. We talked about Carson Wentz to the Colts last week. I think it's a good move. We all think it's a good move. Thomas, I know you think it's a good move. I don't think we really need to say anything other than that, unless you got something you're dying to say about Carson Wentz.
I just think it's funny that it was the first thing we saw about. It was Michael Pittman Jr., who was a rookie last year and had a pretty good year with Phil Rivers, but he had already said, "Oh, I'm not giving him number 11." Like, sorry about that. Like, and you know, it's funny. We heard last offseason, Chris Godwin was like, Tom Brady was ready to take 7 because he was chasing number 7.
That's crazy though.
And it was so weird. He was like, "Nah, like you the GOAT, bro. Like, take 12, like." Please.
Yeah, because Chris Godwin was number 12. He's now number 14, and I'm assuming he'll never take 12 again as a Buccaneer.
No, yeah, probably not. So it is just funny. But again, at the same time, if you're Carson Wentz, man, why not go for a different number? Like, cleanse yourself of everything that happened in Philly and start fresh.
I like it. I do. I believe in starting fresh. I believe in new scenery is making a big difference in things, but you know where I'm going with this, and I will never forget the time that I was at the Super Bowl in Minnesota, and I was at dinner on like a Tuesday night in the same hotel as the players because I was with Nick Hardwick and my radio show, but Nick obviously knows everyone. What'd you say?
Sick brag.
Hey, we all had to stay in the same room that night, and Judson had to sleep on a cot, but I'll give it to Judd. He volunteered himself to sleep on the cot.
Who snored the loudest?
I was a little bit fatter back then, so I snored, and I was really worried I was going to snore, so I didn't really sleep those nights because I was so afraid I was going to snore. So it would be me. But I do remember the year before. We're getting off subject here, but I do remember the year before when we were in Houston and Rich Orenberger was with us. It was Mark Willard, Rich Orenberger. Judson, Nick, and myself, and I had to sleep on this stupid couch that had a bar down the middle of it. But anyway, Rich Orenberger snored louder than any person I've ever heard in my entire life. So that was insane. That was insane. But I will never forget the time that I was sitting in that restaurant and the Eagles were in the Super Bowl. They're all come walking down the hall. Nick Foles has like everyone around him wanting to be a part of him. And Carson Wentz is recovering from ACL surgery, crutching down the hall with his little binder in his hand, and no one was helping him. That tells me everything you need to know about Carson Wentz. And people think I'm crazy, but think about it. If you're friends with someone and you care about that person and you see them crutching down the hallway while they're struggling with their playbook, aren't you going to offer to take their playbook for them? They're literally 5 feet in front of him, and they all their backs are to him. I mean, that tells me everything. And then all those different rumors came out about how he wasn't a good teammate and blah, blah, blah.
I know there weren't any Carson Wentz candles in anybody's lockers that were being lit during that playoff run.
What was that? Why do I know that story?
Because Chris Long and a few other guys had made a shrine for Nick Foles during their playoff run for
good point.
Big Dick Nick.
No, Big Dick Nick, yes. That's his nickname. I totally forgot about that, but another great point, because they weren't doing the shrine to Carson Wentz. I don't know what happened, but I'm curious to see if there's more of that in this new team. We know what's up. I mean, there's a common denominator there.
Well, let's hope not. Let's hope Frank Wright and him, will hit it off better than him and Doug Peterson, and maybe they can fix a few things. I know Anthony Costanzo retired, who was like an all-pro left tackle for them. They still have Quentin Nelson there, and that offensive line will still be good. That could be maybe a destination for a top-tier tackle in free agency. I mean, that team is still ready to win. I mean, they were a few plays away from beating Buffalo, and I think they could have made on a deep run.
Yeah.
They were the only team ranked in the top 10 in every offense, defense, and special team last season. So
yeah, I agree. I'm surprised that Philip Rivers retired, actually, because I think that team is that close to the Super Bowl.
I think he wanted a year of coaching under his belt before Gunnar got to the high school.
Oh, Gunnar being his oldest son?
Yes.
Yeah, and I remember, I had dinner with Philip Rivers one time through someone else, and I didn't speak to him, but I did sit next to him. Literally sat next to him at the table. He did say some things to me, but I was trying to keep quiet because I didn't want to be a fanboy. Yeah, but I do remember him saying at the dinner that Gunnar, him and someone else were talking about his kids playing football, and I remember him saying, like, Gunner's the kid to look out for because he's got a gun.
I've seen some clips of him in this flag football league that he helped coach, and I believe Gunner throws similar to his dad.
See, that's strange because Philip has that motion because he threw a heavy ball as a kid, right?
I think a pro-style ball as a kid, which is, they're heavier.
They're heavy and they're wider. It's harder to grip, so he kind of had to launch shot put it instead of throw it overhand, which is interesting for Gunner to take that because you think that Phillips motion is because of the ball being too heavy, but we'll see. And that's pretty cool. I like that. I want to see what happens with that. Phillips, great guy. Always been great to San Diego. So we'll see what happens with Carson Wentz. We'll see what happens with the Colts. And going forward, Carson, just be nice to people, man. Just be nice to people. If Michael Pittman's telling you no way, Jose, on your jersey, that's got to be a cold reality.
Yeah, or, he's trying to figure out his own brand. If he wants to be number 11, he's already started. Maybe he's already got himself a tattoo of it. And
never get a tattoo of your jersey number.
I'm just saying. I mean,
unless you're Tom Brady, then you can get a tattoo of your jersey number. You think drunk Tom Brady went and got a tattoo that night? And he was like, I want to go get a tattoo.
No, I don't think Giselle would let him.
That's true.
She's like, oh, no, honey, we need your body pure.
Is that how she speaks?
Well, she's Brazilian.
Okay, do it one more time, please.
Oh, no, honey.
He can't even finish a sentence. Oh, no, honey. I don't know why I sound like tattoo. All right. We have a couple more topics real quick before we wrap up this latest episode of Two Pros and a Joe, today's edition.
One thing Philip Rivers never did.
What?
Wrap up.
Oh, hey, why are you making jokes about Philip after saying all these nice things about him? It's his choice.
I know. I'm just trying to...
The guy makes $150 million.
Keep the show moving.
Keep the show moving. Russell Wilson rumors.
Mr. Unlimited.
Yeah, he's
seems
kind
a little
weird.
fed up.
Yeah. Oh wait, if that's how you're trying to keep the show moving, please don't. I'd rather it hit the wall when you say Mr. Unlimited trying to unlimit himself. Is that what you're going with next? No. No. We are recording a podcast. You need to say something.
No, it wasn't really going.
Okay.
He is just like god awful on some of his social media stuff like that.
He's pretty bad, I gotta say.
Your Kobe one that you always talk about.
The Kobe one.
Well, he had one where after one of the games in Seattle, maybe it wasn't you. He had this one who was like went out there and played a game and he did a black and white still photo and he's just standing in the end zone at the end and he's like, man, I did it for Kobe today.
I do remember this now, and it doesn't bother me obviously because they were probably legitimately friends. But
and I always respecting someone that was such another great, but it's just sometimes it's just like the corniness of it comes off.
I don't like it when pro athletes tweet from their own accounts as third person. Like, I'm okay with it if you're tweeting from your account and it's coming from you, but that is not coming from you. I mean, he's not black and whiting the photo, and he's not going to his team and saying, "Hey, can you get me a black and white photo of me in the end zone?" Like, I want more.
I'm just casually standing here. Someone just randomly took this picture. I did
it. I mean, what's the difference between Russell Wilson and every other Instagram person out there? So I don't think there's much difference, to be honest.
And like, I love the guy. I thought he was great. It's a great story. But when he signed that contract and that was just the most god-awful video that you could have ever put out when him and Sierra laying in bed.
Yeah.
Hey, Seattle. We got a deal. Go Hawks. I'll see y'all in the morning.
Yeah, Mr. Unlimited was looking a little bit limited and inebriated in that video, which, good for him, but that's not something I'm sending out.
It's like it's cringeworthy in a way, and like it's
he did. He sounded like he'd been up all night smoking cigars. Just, hey, Seattle. Oh, sorry.
We got a deal. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Ciara, that's pretty good. I forgot about that. This has been a fun Russell Wilson memory lane right here.
Yeah, but if he gets traded anywhere, I mean, Seattle, man.
Let's set it up real quick.
Let's
set it up real quick.
Yeah.
He's unhappy because he apparently doesn't have. He's not the GM as well as the quarterback of the team. I know I'm overstating that. He's not happy because he wants some say in some of the moves that they make on the roster. And I agree to an extent that he should have some input into what goes on with the roster. But his decision is by no means end all be all. There's no real other quarterback I could see out there that they could bring in right now that will make them win any more than Russell Wilson did. And if you're DK Metcalf, you are praying and hoping that you don't lose the guy who gets you the ball because they were a great tandem last year.
Yeah, because you got to think a guy like him, especially like going into his third year, he had a couple issues this year with some drops in key places, but I thought took a huge step in becoming, one of the most dominant receivers in the NFL. And if you take away his quarterback, I mean, you're going to bring in Ryan Fitzpatrick?
No, you can't bring it. I mean, you're going to be trading with someone who could send a quarterback that's ready back. But if you're trading with the Bears, you're trading for Nick Foles or Mitchell Trubisky. Please, for the love of God, as a 49er fan, get one of those two guys as the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks because they're not going to be good if those two guys are the quarterback. I'm sorry. Nick Foles, we've talked about it before. I mean, you've done all you can, but you're obviously getting hurt a lot, and you're not – I don't even know what to say about Nick Foles. We've already talked about that. But Mitchell Trubisky, I think he has a possibility of becoming something with a new team, but I just don't think he's ready to become another franchise quarterback.
I mean, even going back to the Russell Wilson thing, I mean, even with his gripe with Seattle, I mean, is it really so much to ask for to get some help? I mean, for the last handful of years, he's been having guys that were like converted tight ends and offensive linemen blocking for him. I mean, the 1 year the team invested in a lot of offensive linemen, they won the Super Bowl because they were a running team. You can still be a running team, but like the only stable offensive line that they've had the last few years is Dwayne Brown, and they traded for him when he was already in the late peak of his career. And the guy's pushing late 30s. You got rid of his main center a couple years ago to trade for Jimmy Graham, which was a failed experiment. So, I mean, is it so much to ask if you're Russell Wilson? He made a point. He's been hit sacked over 400 times in the last few seasons. So, and I mean, in playing in a division that's like the new black and blue division, you got Aaron Donald, and then
you got Nick Bosa.
I don't think it should be crazy for him to just want some input in that aspect of it.
No, I don't think it's crazy either. But the thing I say to that is that that's a style of play. And if you're now all of a sudden worried about getting hit too much, like I know that they put out all these stats, and he had stats ready to go on the Dan Patrick Show for how many times he's been sacked over the years, which was kind of insane to me that he had someone look that up for him or he looked it up himself. But I like your style of play, Russell, is to kind of be a scrambling quarterback who makes plays on the run, and you're not. I mean, you can be a pocket passer, but I think you're better on the run, Russell. So I don't know what you want from him. I get what you're saying, Thomas, and I do think that Russell Wilson should be protected a little bit because you want that guy to play as long as he can as a Seattle Seahawk as the quarterback. You want him to be in his 40s and feeling good.
But you don't want him to be I think he's 32 right now, but you don't want him to be that scrambling quarterback right now. You want him to have to make plays when he needs to because you want him to be able to stay healthy. I mean, yes, he's a shorter guy. He's proved to everyone that you can be 5'11", 5'10", and play quarterback because, yes, he's been able to move around, move the pocket, create lanes. But at the same time, he shouldn't have to be scrambling 15, 20 yards in every play, whether it's just back and forth, around, trying to pull some Russell Wilson magic, what we've seen in the past. And I just think he's at the point now where, like 32, his body doesn't quite heal as fast. He came out and said that he's spending over $1 million a year on just keeping his body treatment right, which is like LeBron came out and said that. James Harrison was a real big proponent of that, doing like the acupuncture and all that stuff. And that dude was pushing, 800-pound sleds still to the age of 42. So,
yeah, I think that's really smart. And it's not, you're not spending money, you're investing money in yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's not that crazy to do. But all right, we got to wrap this up. Last thing I want to talk about with you, Thomas, is Antonio Brown. He is once again a free agent. He just won a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He actually caught a touchdown in the Super Bowl. He stayed on the straight and narrow with Tom Brady as the quarterback. I can't see him signing with any other team than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And he might have to, maybe this is why Tom's making the contract change, because he wants Antonio to get paid.
I think Tom takes care of his guys, but the biggest proponent going forward for Antonio Brown is going to be Antonio Brown. He's got to do a whole offseason of keeping his nose clean, not like it was drug-wise. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying. What did I miss? What did I miss? No,
I'm just saying in general, keeping himself out of the news for all the wrong reasons. Stick to your social medias of doing your fun workouts and all your fun route runnings with all your guys together.
I said get off social media.
He can't. He's a guy like that I think needs to. But, hopefully all the straight and narrow has been good. Maybe all that he got help that he needed. You like to see guys that, for all accounts, all the years in Pittsburgh, it seemed like he was such an amazing guy, straight and narrow. But that whole ending to it, and then that brief stint with the Raiders, brief stint with the Patriots.
Yes. All of the above.
Guy that looked like he was going to be washed out of the league, like a Hall of Fame player washed out of the league because of just some mental issues that was going on. And not joking and saying mental health, that there's not a lot of issues going around the league that need to be addressed a lot more. I 100% think there is, and there needs to be more addressed for it. But
when you're throwing penis gummies at the police, which is what Antonio Brown did. Yes, there are. I don't even know where he got these penis gummies from. There must have been a bachelorette party or something because he legitimately, it was reported that he was throwing penis-shaped gummies in the police's direction,
and then shot a music video in his house like days later
with penis gummies. I don't know. It's all so weird. Antonio Brown, though, I don't think he goes anywhere else except for Tampa.
Penis gummies, balls, Skraby. You've had a lot of stuff going on.
Penis gummies.
Last two podcasts.
I was gonna say something. And I'm not, because I've learned my lesson on saying crazy things into a microphone and then having them bite me in the ass later.
And saved forever.
Well, Thomas, appreciate you stopping in. And, you're not even stopping in. You're part of the podcast, so you are just pulling your weight finally. Jeez.
putting a face to just the nonsense that you always thank me at the end.
A voice. We didn't record this on the video.
There you go.
So a voice. But we will keep trying to do some of these as the off season goes along, so we can keep you all up to date on what's going on in the NFL. I'm not gonna wait for our pros. I mean, we will do some episodes with the pros, but they're not available every week in the off season. So we'll do this. Please follow us on our social medias at the number 2 pros and a Joe. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. They're all the same. And similarly, you can go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts to download the podcast, Google Podcasts. We have a link tree on our Twitter account, all the accounts. If you can leave us a review, please do, because I love reading the reviews. We had one review saying that it was a great podcast, and I wanted to know who it was because I wanted to thank them. But make sure you subscribe and review.
I saw the Mexico City post, someone on Twitter.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Thomas. I meant to say this before we went out, but we were talking at the end of episode 16 about the different countries that have heard us and have downloaded the podcast, and we had I asked people to reach out, and they did. At Emilio Zamora, he reached out to us at 2 pros and a Joe, and he said, "Great podcast, guys. Greetings from Mexico City." So that's very cool. Thank you, Emilio, for reaching out. We would love to hear anybody who's out there listening right now in a different country. Please reach out to us at 2 pros and a Joe and tell us where you're coming from, because I think it's awesome that we're reaching so many different countries around the world.
You think he's ever been to Estadio Azteca?
Probably. I would think so. I mean, yeah, I would think so.
At the game where they shine the laser pointer and
you're saying, that's a good question, Emilio. If you hear this, Emilio,
I wonder if he's ever been to any of the games they've played down there.
Yeah. If you hear this, Emilio, please reply to the tweet you sent us and tell us if you've ever been to any of those Mexico City NFL games. Greg Camarillo said first Cerveza stop is Mexico City. We're gonna try to make this happen. We're gonna speak it into existence. So thanks again, everyone, for listening to this edition of No Pros and 2 Joes. We'll be back with 2 pros and a Joe soon, but until then, hope this helps you get your NFL fix, and we'll talk in a couple weeks, days. I don't know. I don't know why I edited it like this, so I'm just going to keep talking. I'm going to go home and watch some Home Improvement.